Hey, a friend, Chris here from WideLogicProRules.com, the website that helps you get the most you can out of Apple's Logic Pro. It's been about 2 months since I posted the final video in a series of videos here on the channel and website called the Getting Started with Dolby Atmos in Logic Pro series. If you're not familiar, since version 10.7 of Logic Pro, Dolby Atmos has been fully integrated into the application. So with a flip of a setting, you can convert your stereo project into an Atmos spatial mixing project, and everything just takes care of itself. So in that 10-part series, we covered everything that you need to know about Atmos in Logic Pro, starting with the gear that you may or may not need, depending on if you're working on headphones or a speaker-based setup, to how the different panners work, to ultimately how to export your project as an ADM BWF master file that you would then distribute to Apple Music or anywhere else that supports Atmos playback. Now, this series was supported by IK Multimedia. And by support, I want to be really clear here. By support, I mean, I reached out to them because I was like, if I do anything related to Atmos, I can't just talk about it from a headphone perspective. I have to talk about it from a speaker-based perspective as well, if it's going to have any credibility. And IK was so supportive of the series that they sent along on loan a set of their iLoud MTM Immersive bundle of speakers. And you can see some right behind me. It's exactly as it sounds. It's a bundle of 11 of the very popular iLoud MTM speakers from IK. I sent them along on loan so I could do this series, and I fell in love with these speakers. So much so that these speakers are now a permanent installation here in my space, as you can see in the photo overlay. So I wanted to post a dedicated review of the iLoud MTM Immersive bundle for anyone who's exploring the possibility of getting into immersive audio, Atmos, on a speaker-based system. Maybe you're weighing your options, you're looking around at different speakers, and you're taking a look at the iLoud MTM bundle, but you're just not sure if it's a good fit for you. Well, today's review is for you. Let's dig into it. Just to reiterate, the iLoud MTM Immersive bundle is a bundle of 11 speakers from IK, and that is the iLoud MTM speakers, which you can see right behind me on either side. Now, the iLoud MTM is by no means new, yet it's proven to be especially popular both for home studios as well as professional studios as a monitoring solution. And I suspect the reason for that is going to be for the same reasons that I'm going to suggest this is a great bundle to get into Atmos and immersive on a speaker-based setup. Taking a look inside the box of the iLoud MTM Immersive bundle, what you'll receive is, number one, obviously each one of the 11 speakers of the bundle. Number two, on a per speaker basis, you're going to receive a power cord to connect and power up each active speaker. Number three, for each one of these speakers, you'll also receive a tilting stand, as well as a screw to mount the stand directly to the speakers in the event that you need to place these speakers directly on a surface like a desk. Number four, again, on a per speaker basis, you'll receive a rubber base for horizontal placement if that happens to work better for your situation. Number five, you'll receive a MEMS microphone, which is an omnidirectional mic that you'll connect to each speaker individually to conduct the ARC calibration process for tuning each speaker to your space. We'll dig into that deeper in just a moment. Number six, you'll receive a microphone clamp for that MEMS microphone to mount to a microphone stand. Last but not least, number seven, you'll receive as well an XLR to 1/8" TS cable to connect the MEMS microphone to each speaker to again conduct that ARC calibration process. Taking a look at the back of the iLoud MTM speaker, there are controls for number one, low frequency extension, which you can step through from 40 Hz all the way up to 80 Hz, which is specifically for the purpose of bass management in an immersive audio setup. From there, you can adjust the low frequency and high frequency response of each speaker, either by boosting by +2 dB, or in the case of the low frequency shelf, you can reduce by as much as -3 decibels. And for the high shelf, you can reduce by as much as 2 decibels. Then we have a control for the calibration of each iLoud MTM, which allows you to conduct the calibration process. Then there's a control for the input of each speaker, -4 dBu or -10 dBV, depending on the signal that you're sending to the speaker from your audio interface. Then there's a volume control, which I leave set completely to full tilt all the way to the right. Then there's an input for either an XLR or 1/4" cable, an input for the MEMS microphone for the ARC calibration process, then a USB input for conducting firmware updates for each speaker. Which, yes, there are the occasional firmware updates for the iLoud MTMs. These are very much a speaker of the digital DSP age. But the process of updating the firmware for each speaker is as simple as can be. First, you're going to download the firmware package from the IK Product Manager on your Mac. With each speaker powered down, you're going to connect each speaker one at a time using a USB cable to your Mac. From there, you hold the sends button, which is also the input level selector button, as you power up the speaker. This puts each speaker into DFU mode, which is specifically for the purpose of firmware updates. From there, just open the Firmware Updater app and follow the on-screen instructions. And once it's completed, power down the speaker, wait 20 seconds, and then turn the speaker back on. And then that speaker has been updated. Then you just rinse and repeat for each of the 10 other speakers in your setup. All right, so those are the hard and fast details about the iLoud MTM Immersive bundle, from what comes in the box, what the controls are on the back of each speaker, how to update the firmware. But what makes this bundle so awesome for immersive and Atmos? Well, I think there are 4 reasons why this is a fantastic value. Number 1, each one of these speakers is compact in size and lightweight, which I think is incredibly helpful when you have to have so many speakers surrounding you and above you. I mean, each speaker is about 10 inches high, 6 inches deep, 4 inches wide, and 5.5 pounds in total weight per speaker. I mean, think about that. Think about how small and lightweight that is. So you can place these speakers around you as close to the walls as maybe you need to get. And then when you're trying to place speakers above you, having lightweight speakers makes it a lot easier to mount. I mean, many other studio speakers are way heavier, way bulkier, and require some pretty interesting solutions to get above. On top of that, each speaker has built right into the bottom a 3/8 of an inch threading. So you can mount these speakers on something as simple as a microphone stand if you don't have the budget for dedicated studio monitor stands. You don't want to start drilling holes in the walls and ceilings of your space because maybe you're renting. Well, in that case, just buy a bunch of microphone stands. That's what I did for several months when I had these speakers in my possession for my series. However, if you are in a space where you can drill into the walls, the ceiling for mounting those height channels, maybe even some of the lateral channels, well, IK has a new solution, a mounting bracket that they now have released, and I actually purchased 4 of them so I can mount the height channels above onto the ceiling. And in fact, I just want to point out that IK has like a jam point system that I wasn't even that familiar with, but when I checked out for the 4 mounting brackets, turned out that you can get up to 30% off depending on how many jam points you have. So I had quite a few from purchasing the iLoud Precision MTMs. So I got about 30% off of these 4 brackets. That was so sick by ordering from the IK website. So that's an option as well, and I really appreciate having the option for these mounting brackets. Number 2, these speakers sound fantastic. I mean, they truly do. They have a linear phase response, so very precise, clean presentation. The MTM design with the tweeter between the 2 woofers reduces vertical dispersion, so you get less reflection from things like the ceiling, the floor, other surfaces like a desk, which is incredibly important when you have 11 speakers pointed at your head. They're DSP driven, so there's a lot of tech, and they can go as low if you need them to, down to 40 hertz, up to 24 kilohertz. But in an Atmos setup, you probably want a dedicated subwoofer for LFE duties, as well as bass management. And so you can set the high pass filter again on each speaker up to 80 hertz. Number 3, which puts this entire bundle over the top for me at least, is the built-in ARC technology of the speakers, which allows you to tune each speaker to the space itself. If you're not familiar with this kind of technology or software, ARC is an automatic corrective software, but it's built into the speakers themselves. So you don't have to run a separate application on your Mac or run it as a plugin in Logic Pro. The speakers will tune themselves, and then forevermore you can listen to Apple Music, Apple TV, YouTube, anything will be tuned through these speakers. I love it. The process of calibrating these speakers to your space is basically you take that included MEMS microphone, you place it on a microphone stand at the listening position. Using that cable, that XLR to 1/8 inch cable, you connect the MEMS microphone to one of the speakers, then press and hold on the calibration button on the back of the speaker. After a couple seconds, all the lights on the back of the speaker will begin to blink and then get out of the way. That speaker will emit a series of test tones. And the MEMS microphone will capture, it will record those test tones in your space. That speaker will take that information and tune itself to your space so what you're hearing is flatter, a better presentation, less impacted by the anomalies of the space itself. And number 4, just taking all of these details into consideration, the compact size, the lightweight, the ease of being able to mount these speakers anywhere on something like a microphone stand. On top of that, the great sound, the built-in ARC technology, and then 11 speakers in total. And the price for this entire bundle, the iLoud MTM Immersive bundle, is about $4,000 US. Now I get it. Some folks are going to hear that number and they're going to be like, what the? That's so much money. And I get it. For some folks, that's a stretch. And you have to ask yourself, are you trying to get into Atmos and immersive audio on like a real level? Do you really want to do this? Because maybe you don't. Maybe you want to stay in stereo. But for folks who do want to get into Atmos and immersive, I don't see how you cannot justify that pricing for all that you get and how awesome these speakers are. I mean, take a look on Sweetwater or Vintage King at some of the options that are available. Take a look at some of those prices. I have no idea how anyone could justify that kind of pricing on a speaker setup. So again, I think the iLoud MTM Immersive bundle is a steal for what you get in terms of speaker count, technology, all the niceties of this particular speaker setup. I mean, for the price point, for someone trying to get into Atmos and immersive on a budget basis, I don't think you can do better. I mean, that's why I went with it, right? If I had a criticism of this particular setup, this bundle, honestly, I don't really have many criticisms, but the one criticism I do have for IK is it'd be awesome if they released a subwoofer. You know, you have these 11 speakers set up. We're all going to need a subwoofer if we're going to get into Atmos on a speaker-based system. It'd be nice to get a subwoofer from the same manufacturer of the speakers instead of having to look at other companies. That's kind of my big one. So that's the one criticism I have. I hope this review is helpful to you if you've been examining the iLoud MTM Immersive bundle for your own setup for getting into Atmos and immersive. Thanks so much, and I'll check you for more here on Wide Logic Per Rules. Take care.